Squad. Welcome to part 2 of the interview with David Rhodes. And this is the moment we've all been waiting for. This is the interactive part of this episode podcast. 2 ways to interact. Number 1, hit up the C3 Squad Hotline, 909-487-8741. Let me know what your top 10 rappers of all time list is. I want to know. I want to hear from you. Or let me know what you think about my top 10 or David's top 10 as you hear it. But also, when you check out the description to this podcast, you will see a link to our playlist. You'll have a playlist for me, which goes over my top 10. You'll have a playlist from David Rhodes with his top 10. So definitely want you guys to be involved in on this podcast. So without further ado, let's get to it. Enjoy. So this one we're going to do a little different. But I will... Look, I will give David his opportunity to do the proper last sip segment. But for this one, we're going to do something a little special. So I told him when we got him booked to come onto the podcast that I wanted to have a little versus style kind of into this, which we do the debate that so many people have done, which is what's the top 10 greatest rappers of all time? And so how we're going to do this, it's going to be versus style. You can do it from 1 to 10 or 10 to 1, however you want to do it, but you'll reveal one, I'll reveal the next one. We'll go all the way down so we get all of our 10. For the listeners at home, what I'm going to do is I personally have Spotify. I'm going to build a playlist. It'll be in the description for this for my top 10. And here's the thing. Look, everybody's top 10 is their top 10. So if you don't like my top 10, quite frankly, I don't care. But I do want to hear from you why you don't like it and what your top 10 is. So
let me tell you something, man. They're definitely not gonna like mine. So let's be clear though. If you name an MC, that means I can't name an MC correct? Or are we gonna do it that way, or we're gonna just
No. It's your top 10. So if we happen to agree, I know for a fact we're going to agree on one. Now, where they're, I know for a fact. No. Where they are going to be different, but I know for a fact we're going to agree on one. So look, C3 Squad, y'all know the hotline number, 909-487-8741. When you hear this, I want to know, text me what your top 10 is. Text me if you hated my top 10, if you hated the other David's top 10, whatever your feedback is, I want to hear it. C3 Squad Hotline, 909-487-8741. So without further ado, we're going to jump into this. And guesses always first. So we're gonna let you kick it off.
All right. So we'll start with 10.
Okay, start with 10.
All right, number 10 for me is Scarface. Now listen, I think like when you talk about like emotional, it doesn't really get any better than him. And when you talk about dependability when it comes to a record, there's only a few artists that can say that they're dependable when it comes to MCing and releasing an album. Like he's very consistent. And I think he doesn't get enough credit for how good he is and what he brought to the South. He doesn't. And the West reps him too. So like, and that's the thing, right? So like, so Scarface has to be at 10 for me.
Okay.
All right. You good?
Interesting. Look, I'm not. I can't. You know, I have no beef with that whatsoever. I'm not.
That's fine because look, man, because we're gonna conversate throughout this. So we're gonna
talk about it. Like, you know what? So here's the thing. I have no problem with that selection whatsoever. Here's my thing. I don't know enough of Scarface's work. I've heard verses that he's done. I've heard songs that he's done where I'm like, this dude absolutely killed it. And I agree with you. You're going to see my tendencies of what I look for in a rapper. And I think that's the biggest thing about this is like, what is it that you particularly like about a specific rapper? I love storytelling. I love intellectual flow, like how you can put a rhyme together. Like I think that's important, right? So that kind of and Scarface kind of hits on that, but again, didn't have enough body of his work. So for me, coming in number 10.
Yeah, come at 10. Let's start with 10.
Coming in number 10 is Common.
Okay. I can't be mad at that. You know, I'm not gonna be mad if you put Common in your top 10 because I'm a big Common fan.
So here's my, and I'm not look now. For all you listening, like Dave is a huge hip hop head. Like, I mean, this dude like is into it. I'm so I have such a reverence for hip hop. I would never call myself a hip hop head. Do I love hip hop? Absolutely. I don't I'm not into it as much as that. I have my favorites, which you guys are going to hear, and I have the type of things that I listen to, and I just kind of stick with that, right? I don't venture out too much. I've tried to, and I just, I kind of get set in my ways. I got my lane and what I like. But so here's the thing that I love about Common. Again, going back to, like I said, storytelling, very much. I think he's that perfect mixture of poetry and hip hop, and the way that he can not only tell a story, but kind of like take you on a journey, like intellectually, and how he's able to put his rhymes together. His production hasn't always been the greatest, but that's cool. That to me is more of, I look at that as, if you are not a producer and a rapper, which most people aren't, I think that's more of a business decision of who you align yourself with to find that sound to really get to you. But what I love about Common is, even though his production probably wasn't always great, like he can usually shine through, except for Electric Circus.
Wait, no, that's what I wanted to talk. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Because I'm gonna be frank with you. Because for everybody that doesn't know, I'm a huge Common fan. I am Common is one of my favorite MCs. Now I'm doing my top 10, so like a lot of my favorite MCs aren't gonna make this 10, and I'm content with that, right?
Interesting.
But here's my thing about Electric Circus. All right, I think Electric Circus gets a horrible rap. I think Electric Circus is a top 5 Common album. Like, I sincerely think that. Like, and I could be here for hours talking about this. But like, when you start thinking about the things that were done on that record and listen to the work that's happening now, it was ahead of its time, and it showed. It wasn't appreciated then because it came after Like Water for Chocolate. It was between Like Water for Chocolate and B. Like, so Electric Circus, and the thing that's crazy, and it's funny because I got to meet Common last year too. And he has a niece that goes to A&T. Can't remember. Oh no, a nephew. I think a nephew that goes to A&T. But the thing is, I got to meet him, and he signed a couple of my albums. So he signed Electric Circus, and I think it knocked him off a bit when he saw Electric Circus. Right? But the thing is, like, I think Electric Circus doesn't get enough credit to how lyrically he was there. Like, the bars on Electric Circus was there. It was like that did not escape itself. Like, he's had albums past Electric Circus where lyrically he did that. But lyrically, he was still prime Con at that point of his career. And the production by Dilla was ahead of his time. The goal was to get it completely away to what happened with Like Water for Chocolate. And dog, Neptunes was on that album. Prince was on that album. What?
It's just,
look, man. Look, visiting. That's what I'm saying. I tell folks all the time, I'm like, you guys are, the thing is, people go at, all right, you had Resurrection, One Day It All Makes Sense, Can I Borrow a Dollar, you had Like Water for Chocolate, and then you got Electric Circus, like, no, and then you went to B, got Fighter Forever, and then you kept rolling. But like, I tell folks all the time, like, if you truly believe that Electric Circus is as bad as you say, I think you should go back and listen to it now.
Okay.
I think now you would have a different perspective on it.
And you know what? That's a good point, because I have not listened to it.
There's only one horrific album he has. There's only one horrific album he has. Do you know what it is? No, I don't, because we're not going to agree with Universal Mind Control. Universal Mind Control cannot.
Okay.
And the thing is, there was a time where he would close out with Universal with the song Universal Mind Control at his shows, and I would cringe every time. every time. I would cringe. I love Calvin, but I would cringe every time. And the
Okay.
thing is, and I posted about this during Dilla week, Dilla Day, because Dilla released Donuts on his birthday, and it was the 15th anniversary of it. And so I posted a performance from the Roots Picnic last year, where Common was a surprise guest. And like, I saw Common 3 times last year. Once with my wife at Foxwoods. He headlined the Newport Jazz Festival up here. Well, I saw him in 2019, excuse me, 3 times in 2019. And he headlined the Newport Jazz Festival up here, which is a phenomenal festival. You got to get up here whenever they bring it back. And when he was a surprise guest for the Things Fall Apart performance. And my favorite performance was the Things Fall Apart performance because he performed doing it. He never performs doing it. Like, he never performs doing it. Because doing it was a diss track. So like, he never performs doing it. And so I'm like, yo, when he started with that, when he opened, after he did the Hip Hop You Love My Life verse, and then he opened with doing it, I was like, all right, we're here. Let's go. we know what this is gonna be. You know? So, but nah, dope performer. I can't be mad at him at 10.
Okay.
I can't be mad at him at 10.
All right, sir. So you for number 9.
I don't know how you're gonna feel about this. You might like this one. Ice Cube. I got Ice Cube at 9. I got Ice Cube at 9. And I'm gonna explain why I have Ice Cube at 9.
Okay. All right.
I think what he did with NWA for Straight Outta Compton, he wrote the majority of that record. He has always been sharp with the pen. He was a phenomenal storyteller. He knew how to write vivid rhymes across the board. It didn't work out with NWA. He left. He went solo. And he created America's Most Wanted, Death Certificate, and Lethal Injection. Boom, boom, boom. And in between that, he dropped one of the greatest diss records of all time. And the thing is, like, when you talk about album runs, like when you think, if you go Straight Outta Compton to Lethal Injection, it's kind of hard to beat. Like, it's just hard to beat. Like, if you, because
is it though?
Yeah, it is. Like, dude, like, I don't think folks understand. Like, we just had a discussion about production and how Common did the production, right? Think about what he did. This dude had Dr. Dre. He had Dr. Dre on the production. He left Dr. Dre, went to New York, brought the Bomb Squad, doing tracks with Chuck D. What? Dude. And the thing is, he always had it. Like, he came out with a record recently. He still, and people were going at Q about the whole contract for Black America, going with Trump. But the thing is that the thing that people fail to realize and don't get is that Cube has never changed. Cube doesn't give a damn about neither side. He's just trying to fix the problem.
Right.
And it's a problem that is on both ends of the spectrum. So you can't get mad at that guy for making the attempt. You know, and he explained himself. He was like, look, they said it, Biden said if he won, he was gonna give me a call, and he did. He was a man of his word, because Ice Cube was gonna keep you accountable. Yeah. So, like, considering what that man has done from that, and then him to jump into the movie game and Creative Friday and all these other joints, like, and the thing is, people are still scared of Cube with that pen, man, because Cube is a monster, bro.
So here's my thing. So Cube, he didn't make my cut. And
I know he didn't.
I know we did. I went back and forth. I went back and forth on this one because I feel like I feel like there's 2 Cubes. I feel like there's the Cubes you talk about, the NWA, Lethal Injection, and then there's this Dub C, West Side Connection, Friday Cube, and it was just I knew what he was doing. I saw him doing it. I like okay, like you went Friday, like you what I get. He was businessman. I saw what he was just like. Okay, I'm going to start the gangster rap stuff ain't gonna work for me. Like it got me where I'm at now. I need to kind of take this. And to me, he was the first one that kind of started making like pop hip hop. Not quite as pop as it is now, but like it was just such a drastic difference.
Well,
Between,
it was, but the thing about Cube was like, and I get what you're saying, but then it goes back to the argument of what would you rather have, right? So you can decide, like you can make a decision on whether or not you want to have somebody that just has a great record and a bad record and a great record and a bad record, then a great record, or you could just have somebody that's like outstanding, 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 outstanding. Right. And then he's like, all right, but he's transitioning.
Right.
But you can't take away what he did. And it's funny because the next person on my list, that's going to be another layer of a discussion about that. Okay. But like my point, but the thing is like and one thing you're going to notice about my list too is that you're going to notice that I'm about consistency, but I'm also about like when you come in, how do you come in? And the way that Cube came in, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Like, you know, we talk about, and I'll just be clear, Lauryn Hill's not on my 10, right? But when we talk about somebody like a Lauryn Hill, right? Lauryn Hill, score just turned 25. She came out with Miseducation. She can tour Miseducation for the rest of her life. People, and the thing is, so now think about it when you're in hip hop and you got 3 classic albums that you can tour for the rest of your life. Like I saw him, was it, I think it was last year that I saw him. Last year or 2019. I saw him, he just came out with a new album. He just sold out Foxwoods. He sold out Mohegan Sun Arena. And what was he performing? He performed No Vaseline. He performed NWA. He performed stuff from America's Most Wanted. He performed stuff from his new album too, but he performed he performed from that 4 core. He could tour that forever. Like if Big 3 goes bankrupt, nobody will give him another movie contract. He can just go out and do Zoom performances of his records. And he could just do that for the rest. Like that's powerful. So that's why he's there. And coming up with a 10 man is so hard for me because I could swap. Like when it comes to like the bottom like 3 or 4 out of my 10, I could flip them.
Yeah,
easily.
So I'm gonna tell you, for me, it was it was hard ranking them. Yeah. And because there's so many different reasons why they're in my 10, and one reason, because this person's better at this, doesn't make them necessarily better in my eyes, right? But anyway, this is just how I kind of came out. All right, number 9 for you, Q. So for me, number 9, let's see how you find this, is Logic.
Wow. Over Common? Well, here's my thing with Logic. And I'm not denying Logic's ability. I'm not denying Logic's ability at all. I wonder if he has a classic, right? That's the only thing I'm wondering. That's it. Like I'm not denying that he can rap. No question about that.
Right.
He's an MC. Like I think some people want to, talk about, oh, he can't. No. He can rap. I don't have him in my 10, but it's just I don't know if he has that classic record, that classic album.
And I will say this, that he doesn't. But again, so my particular taste, what I really enjoy about him is so I'll separate. There's an art to production and album making, right? Like that's different from just writing a good song or coming up with some good verses, right? There's a subtle art to that that everybody has. What I enjoy about Logic is the cleverness in his wordplay and how he's able to put things together and his storytelling, right? But it's more so the intellectual cleverness of his wordplay. I've heard him put some stuff together. I'm just like, that's dope. Like, and that's the things that I really like about him. And it was what kind of solidified him for me. And I can't remember. It's off his last one that he did, but and it's corny and it's kind of stupid. But I was just again the cleverness to put it together. The whole track is about like talking about how he's changed this or whatever, and he's talking about just him going to the store right now that he's a dad and the different things that he does, and just the cleverness and the wordplay that he pulled into to tell that story. I have to pull it up. It's going to be on the Spotify list when I put it together. But that to me, I was like, yo, like I just felt like so many people. I was like, this cat is. I was like, he can put it together. Like it's like, and so many people sleep on this cat, and I get it. Like some of his, but when you listen to the albums, it doesn't flow like you would want an album to do. And I think he got better as he got to his later albums. And I could tell just he was more of like a raw MC versus let me go put this album together. How do I flow through track 1 to track 2 and where I put him and things like that. There's a whole sequence in there that there's an art that's missed that I think he just never kind of had. But for me, that's what I put him in. And it's I'll admit it's probably a little bit of recency bias him over Common, because if I go back to if I take 90s, early 2000 Common, like I take that Common over Logic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so the thing is like, because for me it too is when I came up with my 10, I was thinking like all time, right? So for me, I got a lot of folks that are much older, but like when you start thinking about some of the guys that I mess with now, like that I listen to constantly now, like you got your Fontes, you know what I'm saying? Like I listen to Fonte pretty much every day. Is he in my 10 of all time? Probably not, but I think he's there.
Right.
It's argument. There's an argument for it. I mean, considering what he's done, because he pretty much, and I say this all the time, when you talk about the 2000s, he was probably the best rapper of that decade, in my opinion. Like that showed up in the 2000s. As an MC, he was the guy. Like he was the best guy. Like he changed the way that mixtapes were done. Like he kind of, truth be told, like Drake will say it. There's no Drake without him, without Fonte, period. Kendrick's first mixtapes utilized a lot of the production from some of the old foreign exchange stuff. Like he kind of spawned Kendrick, Cole, and Drake. He spawned those three guys. So I could have an argument of why he could be top 10, but I have a lot of older school folks on my list. So like, you know, because I'll tell folks all the time, there ain't nobody that wants to be sitting in the booth for Fonte and it's just him. There ain't too many folks that want to be in the same room with him. Because you want to talk about putting words together. And like, and the thing that makes it, and I'm talking about maybe not on my list, but the thing that makes him so great is that he will start rhyming about something and then he will say a line. And it's more like if you know type of line. Like there was like Little Brother just came back together. They released the album in 2019. And there was a line when that man said straight out the trunk like Ray Caruth. If you knew, like, and the thing is, it was the way that's the way he opened. Like that was like the first 4 bars. That's how Little Brother's back. First 4 bars, straight out the trunk like Ray Caruth. What? Like I was like, whoa, what did he just say? I was like, all right, so we know where he's gonna be for this record at this point. So like, it's just things like that. Like he'll throw like a bar in there, and like you have to understand like the combinations of what he's doing. Like there was another line on that joint where he was like, on another song on that album where he was like, let me see. Thank y'all for listening. I ain't got this. What is it? Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for listening. I'm not trying to overstay. Good music is like drop facts over hot wax like Odelay, a killer type on a thriller night like Ola Ray. It's close to midnight. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This dude did a Beck line and then brought out Ola Ray from Thriller. The girl was walking with MJ on Thriller. And then he put it close to midnight so to make sure that you understood where he was hitting. I was like, all right, okay, I'm done. I can't deal with this. Like, I like MCs that'll just make you stop what the hell you're doing.
Yep.
To go back and check and see what the hell he just said. And then the bars just continuously go ridiculous. But all right, and there goes my tantrum about Fonte. All right, moving on. But now I can't, like, I get it. My thing with Logic is the classic thing. I don't think he's got the classic record yet. And I think for me, for a 10, you got to have at least one. I prefer 2, but you got to have at least one.
Okay.
Which goes to my 8th guy, because my 8th guy is Nas, and depending on who you ask, some people say he's got 5 classics. I'm thinking he probably has 2. He definitely has 1.
He definitely has one.
And I think, and it's funny because like they just announced the finalists for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Jay-Z and LL Cool J made the finalists, and it's a travesty that LL's not in yet, right? So it's a travesty because everybody else around them is in. Like the Beastie Boys are already in, Public Enemy's already in, LL's not in yet.
Right.
But we know that Jay's definitely going to get in, and it's going to be insane to see if I could legit see a scenario where Jay gets in and LL does not. Right. But when you think about the fact that Nas hasn't been a finalist yet, because remember, it's 25 years after your debut album, Nas hasn't been a finalist yet. And I think nobody's really talking about it, but I think part of the reason why is because he has Illmatic, right? And then when you go after Illmatic, you see a change. You see a big change.
Yeah. And
I said big for a reason, because I think big is the biggest reason why you saw that change. He got more commercialized rather quickly, and It Was Written was a really great album. I don't think it's a classic like people say it is, right? He's got his biggest hit there, but I don't think it's a classic. I think Stillmatic's a better album, but it's just when you start thinking about Nas's trajectory after Illmatic, it seems like he forgot how to pick beats. And then he came out with the album last year with Hit Boy. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you a funny story about that, and you're going to laugh at this. So when I first heard the Nas album with Hit Boy, I'm like, all right, he did it, right? He did it. He got, the beats were great. He was there. He didn't do that BS he did with Kanye. He did it, right? He did it, right? So I'm like, awesome. And then Benny the Butcher announced that he's doing an album with Hit Boy. And then it was released. And then I heard the beats. And then I said, damn it, that means Nas had a chance at all these. Because there's no way that Hit Boy would tell Nas no, right? So I'm like, shit, Benny got way better production than what Nas got. But it was still a great album. And I think Nas might finally get his Grammy too. But Nas is my 8. I think lyrically he's top notch, extreme level lyricism. He has Illmatic. Illmatic, like the theory stands, right? There was albums made. Hold on, let me get my camera right. Come on, man, focus, Daniel son, focus. There's albums made before Illmatic, and then there's albums made after Illmatic. It changed. Like, right. I think folks don't give enough credit to what Illmatic did. Like, things changed when Illmatic showed up, because people had to start thinking about everything else from the spectrum. And I am very irritated by my camera right now. But things change, right? So Illmatic changed a lot because you couldn't tell me that there was multiple producers on that record. You couldn't tell me.
Right.
Until you looked at the credits and saw that he had Premier, Rock, Pete Rock, Large Professor, like, couldn't tell me Q-Tip, like couldn't tell me that all these producers was on this, but that changed everything. Because before that, you just had one producer do the whole thing.
Right.
And that changed everything. That changed. And the thing is, he lyrically, he was top notch. Like you knew that he was going to be around for a while. And that's back to that sample size that you can have this one album and tour for the rest of your life. He could go out and perform Illmatic for the rest. And he's got other songs too.
Right.
Because he's had his ebbs and flows just like any other artist has. So that's why he's my 8.
And look, I get it. I Nas isn't on my list. And it's not like I never really connected with him.
No, I get it. No, look, like,
you know what I mean? Like there's
something for, like, it's kind of like somebody like a Doom, right? Like I love Doom. Like some people, like I think people after his untimely death, I think some people are finally figuring out how great Doom was.
Right.
Like Doom, like in college, Doom was one of those guys, one of those rappers that made me feel like hip hop was going to be fine. Like when I heard Mad Villainy, I was like, oh, we're good. We're gonna be fine. Like we got Mad Lib, we got Doom, we're gonna be fine. And then Doom freaking released 3 albums that year. Like I was like, we're gonna be fine. I'm not worried. No, him, little brother. I'll just go the independent route. I'll just go over here, and I'll just grab my stuff over here, and then I'll be fine.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Yeah. All right. So number 8 on my list is Kendrick.
I can't be look. Here's the thing with Kendrick. No, because here's the thing, right? And this is where the discussion goes, right? Because most folks, and I'm gonna say it now. I'm gonna go ahead and get your face out. I don't have Biggie or Tupac in my 10. I anticipate that you probably will have maybe one, if not both of them in your 10. And that's fine. And I can't be mad at that. But hear me out. Kendrick Lamar is an example of why it makes it hard, right? You can't, like I just went talking to you about Q and how that start happened, right?
Right.
Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly. Damn. You can't be mad at that. Like you cannot, because like I picked To Pimp a Butterfly to being the best rap album of the decade. Like you cannot deny it.
I'm gonna say this, and look, complete bias on my end on this with Kendrick.
No, you from Cali.
Because here's the thing, because Good Kid, Mad City, literally. So one of my criteria in mind, like, so what I was like, I don't really relate with Nas. Part of for me is like, what goes into my list is who can I put on and I could just ride out to, and like I connect with them in a way that to me, that's hip hop. Hip hop to me was all about connection, right? Like when what made it so raw and so real, and I think reached so many of us, it was like you heard somebody telling your life, right? Like the things that you could relate to, the things that you was like, yo, yeah, this is life. And to me, literally, Good Kid, Mad City, that whole album, I remember hitting up all my piece from I was like, yo, this was us. Like this is literally him telling our lives. And so like every time I hear it, I'm just like, everything from from going to go see, I don't forget if it was Lorraine or whatever her name was. It was like, nah, like you better tell me where your daddy stay, your mama stay, something. Like it was just like I was like, this is like, and I was texting with my boy. I was like, yo, it's literally like he was riding around with us back in the day when we was out doing stupid shit or whatever. I was like, and so it's very much his delivery, his passion, his flow, like I connect so much with anything that Kendrick does. I'm just like, so for me, like that's why he's in there. Now, and I considered having him a whole lot higher,
but you could,
and
but
I
you could,
could,
Dave, you
right.
could, because the thing is, like, people have Biggie in their top 5, right? And I'm probably more blasphemous about that than having Tupac in your top 5. And I know people say, well, Biggie is a much better lyricist. I get all that. But I don't rever Life After Death like most folks do. I think Ready to Die is his classic album. And
Yeah.
I think Life After Death has a lot of filler.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying Life After Death does not have jams, because it does. But as an album, as a full body of work, it ain't there, guys. But I know folks are like, you can't do that. And I'm like, and I'm not the only one that feels this way. There's a lot of MCs out there that feel the same way, and they have gotten blasted because of it. But the thing is that the facts are the facts. I could cut Life After Death in half, and I can get you a classic out of there.
Yeah.
But as a full body of work, it's not. It's not a classic.
Yes, it's not. It felt like it was.
It was the timing of how everything happened.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And I don't think people want to hear it. And I anticipate your phone line will be lit about it. And that's fine. And if you want to hit me up, that's fine. You can follow me on Twitter. Camp D1012. You can come at me there, and it's fine. And I will take all the heat. But it's just, it's not there. But the thing is, whenever somebody puts Biggie in the top 5, the first thing I say is, well, then where the hell is Kendrick? Because you can't tell me he ain't got at least 2 classics. He might got 3. He probably got 3. And the thing is, Good Kid, Mad City is this generation's Illmatic. Like, the format, you know, it is. When you sit down and think about it, it is. It is. Like, when you sit down and you think about it, it is. Because albums changed after that. Albums changed after that too. So, like, when you think about it, like, and I think that's part of the reason why Kendrick had to do what he had to do with the follow-up. You know? Because, like, if you think about what Kendrick did, it's freaking amazing. Like, Kendrick made a pure West Coast album with Good Kid, Mad City, right? Then he got his Soulquarians on, the Robert Glasper, the Thundercat. He got it on on To Pimp a Butterfly. And then he said, you know what? I can do this commercial thing too. And he dropped down. Straight commercial. Across the board. Pop, U2, Rihanna, straight commercial. And then closes the album with Ninth Wonder. What? Like, what? Like, so that's why I always say it. And then they think it's blasphemous, but I'm like, dude, my man dropped the verse. My man dropped the verse and pissed off an entire coast. Like, I mean, my man dropped the verse and just pissed off an entire coast. Had Caps responding to the verse. Not even mentioned Had Caps responding. Like, it was freaking incredible.
And that, to me, like, honestly, that verse will put him over the top. I was like, this to me, that was Kendrick going, this is now mine. Like, that's it. Like,
but that's hip hop. That's hip hop.
Right? That's hip hop. That's it. And here's when I knew it was the case, because the real MCs solidified it, because they wasn't mad. They was like, I gotta go to work. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the only people that was complaining was the cast.
The ones that ain't
right. But the real MCs was like, heard, time to go to work. Got it left. Right?
That's the way it's supposed to work.
Right. That's how it's supposed to be. So, yeah.
So, like, you can't, and when folks are like, well, it's Kendrick top 10, I'm like, you gotta have the debate. Like, you can't automatically say, all right, Biggie, Tupac. No. I'm not doing that, because that means nobody can ever exceed that. And Kendrick has reached an outstanding level he should have already won 2 album of the years.
Yeah.
You
And in
know?
fact, yeah. All right. So interested to hear your next one because my one after this one, looking at this is anyway. I'll explain it later, but
Yeah, that's fine.
we'll move on.
Oh, well, the one after this one, you're gonna look at me like I'm wild. So number 7 is Eminem.
Okay.
And the thing is about Eminem, and I will admit this, and I love Eminem as an MC, but boy, he might need to hang this up, because if he keeps releasing these albums, he's gonna fall slowly but surely. It's hard for me to have him to stay at 7,
Yeah.
but I think the first time I heard Eminem wasn't My Name Is. It was on Ruckus Records, Sound Bombing 2, Any Man. When I first heard Any Man, I was like, what? And then I found out that he was on Aftermath. And I'm like, so Dre is co-signing this guy. So now he's pretty much got the ticket. Because if he, and the thing is, and I know Dre probably took a lot of heat because of diversity of hip hop. Yeah, hard. So with the diversity of hip hop, but the thing is, you couldn't deny how good he was on the mic. You could not deny how good he was on the mic. And I know folks probably got tired of him talking about how he killed his baby's mom, yeah. but whenever he needed to show up, he came to work.
He did, absolutely.
He came to work. Didn't matter who it was.
Murdered every single cipher he was ever in.
Ever.
Period.
Ever.
Like just.
But then there was one that was a tie, because I mean, there was the one that he did with Mos M and Thought. Man, that was insane.
Okay, I do not remember that one.
So like, and there's a backstory to it. So like, it was the original one was supposed to be Mos Def, Black Thought, Eminem, and Rakim. Those were going to be the 4, right? Rakim couldn't make it, and I remember because when they told the story of it, Black Thought was like, Rakim couldn't make it. They asked me to add a couple more bars to it, and that's what this was 2009. Like, and I will never forget. Like, Mos Def started it, and I was like, all right, Mos. And then Thought came in. I was like, Jesus Christ Almighty. Then M came in. I was like, Jesus Christ Almighty. And so then it's always a debate who got it. It's always a debate on who got it. Some people think Mos got it, but most of it is between whether Thought or M got it, right? Yeah. Because their verses were ridiculous. But it was just wild. And then like to imagine the fact that Rakim was supposed to be the closer. Like to imagine the fact that Rakim was supposed to close that off is bananas to me. And that was back when, like, because now the ciphers on the BET, it's about your crew, right? Yeah. But that was back when, like, you just had a couple of rappers and they were just like, So that was back when it was really good. I mean, they have their moments occasionally now. Some of the younger guys would have their moments, like Jordan. I discovered Jordan Lucas in one of those ciphers, man. And like Redman in his 40s out here ripping it to shreds. Like, so you get your moments still occasionally, like the time with Thought brought Hamilton with him, brought the Hamilton cast with him, and closed it out. I was like, yeah, like, so you'll occasionally get the moments, but back then it was, then it was raw. It was what it was. Yeah, it was like, it was not about unity. It was about going for next. And I'm about going for next. And that's what Eminem did, man. He went for next. He had a very strong start, just like a Cube. And then he had his little, he had his addiction. And then he pulled himself out of it. And I want to give a shout out to Royce, because I think when it's all said and done, Royce is going to pass him. To pass him.
Royce had heavy contention, but I can't, like, it's not enough. Like Okay, so to me, and blasphemy alert, right? Royce and Andre 3000 to me are in the same boat. Is like they
I'm
come
not.
hard on
I,
verses.
I'm not going there. I'm not doing it. I'm not letting you. I'm not
Like,
allowing you. I'm not
like
allowing you to do this.
listen, they come hard on verses, but it's like, okay, put your solid content together, and it never kind of like
Well, with Royce, he has been doing it. His like from 2015, 2014 to now, because he's been independent. Like Layers, Book of Ryan, and the Allegory. He's been doing it. And then in between he had the bookend mixtapes. Like, I stand by Trust the Shooter. I will stand by Trust the Shooter. I will stand by Trust the Shooter. When he had the joint, This Is Cool, and I was like, all right, he's not being fair at this point. Like Royce, like if you took Royce, if Royce from 2014 on, it's a dude, like there ain't too many folks that are punching at his weight in his weight class. There aren't too many MCs that are punching at his weight class right now from that standpoint. But I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not gonna let you do that. I'm not gonna allow it. I won't allow it. I can't allow it.
Okay. I'm saying.
All
right, so my number so my number 7, Dark Horse Left Field, I really like him. And honestly, if I really put more thought into like where he would be lower, but is Lupe.
Give me Lupe.
I wouldn't have him over Kendrick, but like I've always, again, with Lupe is just it's the intellectual thought into his verses. I felt like at some point he was rapping where the industry wasn't ready to go.
Oh, he was.
And he never and where I respect him for it, he doubled down on it and never wanted to go a different route.
You heard the story about what happened. You heard the story about what happened to Lupe, right?
No.
And why he signed where he signed.
No.
He signed to Atlantic Records because Jay-Z was supposed to go to Atlantic Records and run the label. So he signed with Atlantic Records under the impression that Hov was coming. And then, so like the plan was that he was going to run Atlantic. And so he would have Jay, he would have Hov, because that was the original intention. But Def Jam gave Hov an offer that he could not refuse. They gave him his masters back. So he ended up running Def Jam instead.
Right.
But at that point, Lupe already signed to Atlantic. So now they have this guy. So then Leor came in, and now they got this guy that they didn't want to do nothing with. And I think the point when he was gaining momentum with Kick Push, and he found out that the label was telling the radio stations to stop playing the shit, that ended that situation. Yeah. So at that point, he was stuck on the label. But then there was always going to be a clash when it came to everything in regards to that. So, but the original thing was he was supposed to be with Hov. And that did not happen because so it goes back to, it's amazing what can happen when you don't have the right people backing you.
Right. Absolutely.
So, but Lupe, dude, I listen to Merle at least once a week. At least once a week. At least. So like the dude, his wordplay is freaking out of this world. I love, like, T&Y is probably my favorite album from him. And I liked Jorgus Wave too. And I liked his old stuff too, don't get me wrong, but he had his moments in the middle in there. But like I feel like his after Atlantic got off, I think he's seeing himself, like what he did on the House album Like he's doing his thing. Like I can't be mad at Lupe and Yute. I can't. Because and like my cousin would definitely not be mad. My cousin Maya would not be mad with Lupe Fiasco and Yute. She might be more angry at the fact that he's not in mine. But the thing is, like, Lupe is such a, he's like, when I said that Fonte was the best MC to come out of 2000, Lupe is near there. Like Lupe is is near there, and the way he debuted on the Kanye record, like he's near there. Like I think like the decade of the 2000s was the moment when New York was pretty much done. Like in my opinion, like I think at that point, New York, you know, you had folks coming from Philly, you had folks coming from Jersey, you had folks coming from the Chi, Chicago, even St. Louis had a nice little run. Like the only thing that New York had was 50 and Fat Joe. That was it. But everybody else came from the Midwest, like M and Royce and all these other folks and Lupe. Like you had like the New York's days was already numbered at that point, but then you knew that it was pretty much.
So the go in Detroit went hard for a little bit there, right? Like that they really kind of became the center of what was, I won't say for all of hip hop because I don't follow enough, but I could definitely say for about a good 7-8 years of the hip hop I listened to was either coming out of Detroit or Chicago.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, when you think about Dilla, right? Dilla had his hands everywhere. And then he spawned folks that are still doing their thing now, like your Black Notes. Like, so like when you think about what Detroit never, like, people always relate Detroit to Eminem because Eminem became the megastar. But when you look at what Detroit has, I mean, Big Sean, you got Royce, like Detroit has some folks. Detroit got some problems. Elzai, like, and then when you go to the Chi, I mean, Common, Ye, like, you know, you got your
pre-Kardashian Ye.
Pre-Kardashian Ye. Occasionally you'll see pre-Kardashian Ye show up, but now I don't know what I don't know what post-Kardashian Ye is going to look like.
Me either, but
I'm intrigued.
Quick side note: I was watching now that he got his money. I was watching Chappelle Show on Netflix last night, and I was watching season 2, the episode where Common and Ye came on to perform the food.
Yeah, and that's the one they decided to use on the album.
I miss that Ye so much. But anyway, I digress.
You should miss that Ye. But don't worry. But the crazy thing is that Ye is the same Ye. The difference is that he just has gone in a different angle that nobody's interested in.
Yeah.
Because when that was the old Ye, that old Ye was hated then too, because he was different from everybody else.
Yeah.
But now that old Ye is now billionaire Ye. So there's a different type of thing that he's doing. But all right,
so you got that.
Number 6, you just slandered my guy, but he still remains Andre 3000. Like I'm gonna be clear when I say this. If you're gonna walk into a room and you need a spectacular verse or a spectacular song, you call him. Because the thing is, and the thing is, people say, well, he never really had a solo rap album. And I'm like, I don't like, if you guys are putting Biggie and Tupac on your damn list, I think I'm fine. Like, I got Southern Playalistic, I got AT-Aliens, I got Aquemini, I got Stankonia, I got Love Below, I got, you know, I got a pretty strong set of verses, and that doesn't even include his features,
right?
Because, like, the thing is, Southern Playalistic, people don't remember that, like, that came out around the same time as Illmatic. So, like, I don't think people understand, like, the hurdles that Outkast had to go through as a group. Like, they made their debut on a Christmas album. Players Ball was on a Christmas album. That's how folks got introduced to Outkast, on a Left Face Christmas album. That was the ball that was given to them.
I didn't hear them till I got to T.
Yeah. Well, you know, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry you missed out on the ride, but at least you got to enjoy the ride, because during the T age you had Aquemini and Stankonia. Okay, because Stankonia was when they were like, they were out of there then. That's
Bombs Over Baghdad, right?
Yeah. They were popped then. Like they were out of there then. But like before that, like I remember when I was in high school, back when the Source was actually had some level of relevance. Like their album, Volume 2, Black Star, they all came out the same day. And Tribe came out the same day too. There was a couple other albums that came out the same day. And the Source reviewed all those albums in that one issue. And I remember Aquemini got 5 mics. Volume 2 got 4.5. And I said, at Western Northeast, that was the right decision. And I was a big J fan, and I still am to this day. But Aquemini getting 5 mics was absolutely the right decision. And almost over 20 years, like, has it been 20 years? Yeah, it's been over 20 years at this point. Over 20 years later, I stand by my guns that it was absolutely the right decision to give Aquemini 5 mics. Because I think, like, Southern Playalistic was them just trying to figure this thing out.
Right.
And that was a classic album. AT Aliens was when Andre 3000 was like, all right, it's when it was, well, he was not 3000 yet, but it was like, all right, I'm it. I'm the guy. I'm the guy that knows a guy. And then Aquemini, he was just out of there. He was just out of there. Just out of there. He was just out of there at that point. And I don't think Outkast gets enough credit for the shift. For the, like, there's a reason why the South runs hip hop now. And Outkast is a big proponent of that.
No, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to knock Big Boy. Let me be clear. Because Big Boy has shown, and I remember, like, when Boomerverse came out, I said, if Big Boy knocks his album out the park, we're gonna have to start having some discussions. And he knocked that album out the park. I'm like, we're gonna have to start having some discussions, because I think Big Boy tends to be forgotten because he's in a group with Andre 3000.
Right, because it's Andre. Like, you.
But the Big Boy, like, he can hold his own. He can hold his own, and he's shown that he's had the ability to deliver. So I don't want to. Andre is 6, but I say this all the time. Folks who put Andre in their top 10, you gotta have Big Boy in the 20. Like, you can't. He's got to be close to that range. Like, you cannot say that Andre's number 10 and Big Boy's like number 40. I cannot allow that. Yeah. I cannot allow that to occur. So, like, you know, Big Boy is high on my list. He didn't make the 10, but he's high on my list as well. Like, but Andre 3000 is just ridiculous with wordplay. Ridiculous with wordplay. So that's why he's 6 to me.
Okay. My number 6, Mos Def.
Okay. Look, man, listen. Black on Both Sides is, like, I wrestled with that, and Things Fall Apart is my favorite album of '99. So that, but Black on Both Sides is outstanding. The only thing I have with Mos Def is that his ass be out here trying to do all this other shit that he don't need to be doing. He just need to be hopping in this booth and just drum his bars out. Like, he need to just go to town. Like he, you know, and I count Black Star too. Like, you know, I because Black Star is very important.
Right.
So you know, Most Mighty that's my guy. But I will say, when it comes to going to concerts to see that man, and not because he's not a good performer, it's because he has Lauryn Hill tendencies. You know? But even Lauryn Hill fixed that. So if
Because
Lauryn can fix it, anybody can.
Because here's the thing, like to me, what even when I first heard Most, I was like, yo, like it was almost just I was like, I just wanted to hear more, and I would just I was sit and listen to Black on Both Sides like all the time, but learning kind of more about him for what I would read and stuff like that, and see him go out to the movies, it's he strikes me as one of those cats where it was like rap is just something he was good at. Like, you know what I mean? Like he could just do it. There was so much other things that he wanted to do. I look at him kind of like as a true creative in the fact that like there's just all these other things that he wants to do, and so it's kind of like almost kind of like where Rihanna is now, right? Like you know, everybody's getting Rihanna about her new album, whatever it's gonna come out. Rihanna's like, you know, I've done that, and here's all this other stuff that I'm trying to do, right? She's you know, expanding out her creative. So I kind of, you know, there you go, right? Only on this podcast would you ever hear Rihanna and Mos Def compared to each other. But I'm just saying, like on that same aspect, like because for a while it was like everybody's like, yo, Mos putting out a record. And he's just like, you know, he had his acting thing, he had more of the stuff. It's just is what it is.
He had label problems too. So like, you know, he's another guy that had label problems. Like, so for him, it was a situation where with him with the label issues, he just couldn't. He was at the point of striking. Like he just didn't want it. Like Mos Def as a lyricist, he's insane. Like he's not fair. Like he's so good. For me as a fan, I just wish he would release more stuff. Like I just wish he would release more stuff. And I think that's the problem with me. And the thing is the past things that he has, like so you got Black on Both Sides, classic, right? New Danger, experimental, I'm cool with it. He had moments on it. Then he had the purple label, the purple joint. I think it's called Black Magic. I think that's the name of the album. But it was
let me see.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the album off the top of my head right now. But like that one it was funny because I saw him on a tour. It was him, Pharoah Monch, Talib Kweli, and Jean Grey. And
True Magic.
It's True Magic. All right. I know it was something magic. So True Magic, he was performing True Magic, and this is 2005. So he was performing True Magic in its entirety during this tour. Like he would perform a lot of joints on it. And because he was trying to figure out how he was gonna get it out. So, you know, and then you had True Magic, and then you got the Ecstatic. And I love the Ecstatic.
I did too.
I love the Ecstatic. And so, but then after that, he was talking about, I'm retiring, and then he did the whole album with this other guy, and I'm like, oh God, it was only on Tidal, and I did the subscription for Tidal for just to hear it. I'm like, I'm not feeling this. So like, and now he's like saying, I'm retired, I'm not retired. There's a Black Star album, maybe not. Like, I just want him to hook us up. Like he's comfortable now because he was on Ruckus. So his biggest album was on an independent label. So he could tour. Like it goes back to being able to tour an album. He could tour Black on Both Sides for the rest of his life.
Oh, easy.
And Black Star, because he does shows with Talib Kweli all the time. Whenever they want to do Black Star shows, he in.
Bro, I would go watch Mos just to see him spit mathematics, and I'd be good. Like if that's all he did, I'm straight.
Yeah. Like I remember one time I saw him live during it was a New Year's Eve party, right? So he was supposed to perform and come out and perform at midnight. That didn't happen. And the thing that made me more irritating about the whole ordeal was that he was backstage the whole time. It wasn't like he was late. Like you would see him poke out of the curtain. So like this was in Providence. Like the fans were not happy. Like the folks waiting for him were not happy because they saw his ass just chilling back there while like all these other opening acts are out here performing. And I'm like, yo, like come on out and perform, do what you got to do. And I was just frustrated. So like going to see Mos is very hard as a solo act. Like when it's Black Star, I think like Kweli there might keep the balance to get him there when he need to be there. But it's hard for me to check out a Mos solo set nowadays. But nah, I can't be. I'm not mad at Mos. He's my guy. I love Mos because he was part of one of those artists that had me keep going. Like, you know, he was one of them guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be looking like nowadays. It takes a lot for me to check on some of the new folks. Like, only folks I really mess with that is relatively new is Griselda. Like, I would rock with them dudes. Like, the way they were dropping content constantly. I can do Griselda. I was like, who the new guys listen? Like Griselda, Tana Talk, Burn the Proof. Like give me Benny, give me Westside, give me Conway, give me Stove God Cooks. Like give me, dude. Like, if you into, let me tell you something, bro. If you're like into the Wu, if you're into like Wu, if you into that Wu-Tang thing, Griselda is right up your alley, bro. It's right up your alley.
I'll check it out. I'll admit I'm biased. I don't do much of the new Benny the Butcher. I'm late to, but this last album I enjoyed. I was like, yo, this. I put that Benny the Butcher on. Where was I going?
Which one was it? Burn the Proof?
Or yeah, the latest one he dropped.
Oh, Burn
the Proof.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm on this. No lie, this is what I said. I was like, this is hip hop. Yeah. Like I was like this that, like, you know what I mean? Like it just everything, like his flow to the production, the way he was riding the beats. I was like, yo, this, and I literally first time, and usually with an artist that I don't really know, right? And again, like I said at the beginning of this, that's why I don't consider myself a true hip hop head, but I heard people talking about, I was like, all right, let me pop this in on Spotify. And usually if it's the first time I'm checking somebody out, I might listen to one or two tracks and then be like, I didn't even touch it. I was like,
I'll never, like, when my boy Kevin posted, this was like 5 or 6 years ago, when he posted this crazy cover, and it was just like Fly Guy, and I'm like, all right, let me see what Fly Guy is about, right? So I put, it's West Side Gun. This is when it was still a mixtape, and it just got back on streaming services too. So when I first heard Fly Guy, and I heard that production, and I heard Conway, and I heard West Side, and I'm like, whew, this is hard. I can listen to this. And so then at that point, I'm out here digging. I'm like, all right, Griselda. Because they kept saying, Griselda. I'm like, all right, Griselda, let's go. Let's find this stuff. Then I started digging. I started finding some of the old mixtapes. I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. Let's go. Hope they stay independent. Then they signed to Shady, and I cried. I was worried that we were going to ruin them. But then they still kept dropping content. They kept dropping albums. And I'm like, all right, we're good. They're going to be fine. Shady never, and then they didn't. The thing that was crazy about the Shady signing was that they didn't sign Benny. And I was like, ooh, that means Benny can do whatever the hell he wants and get all the production that he wants and just do whatever the hell he wants. And that's exactly what he did. Because they didn't sign him. So Benny's like out here independent it up, selling merch on his own, touring on his own, dropping Tana Talk 3. Oh, man. Oh. So, like, guys like that give me hope to keep looking for the next one, right?
Right.
That you know, and that's my thing. Like, guys like that. And the thing is, and I was early on them cats. So when everybody else hopped in, I'm like, yo, enjoy the ride. Just like I was early on Chance. I showed folks Acid Rap in 10 Day, and folks was like, now I'm not a big current Chance fan. Let me be clear. Like, he kind of lost me at Coloring Book. Like, he lost me there. Like, I think at that point, he lost me at Coloring Book. A lot of folks like, I love Coloring Book. And I'm like, I mean, I first heard him on 10 Day and Acid Rap. So, like, there was a different expectation that I was looking for. And Coloring Book wasn't it. I'm happy for the guy's success. But it was just, I just couldn't.
Chance is one of those guys I was like, I'm totally happy that he did it. He seems like a good dude. Like, I'm just, again, kind of like Nas, like, I don't relate. I don't get it. Like, I don't connect with him like that. Like, you know, he's got some stuff, but I'm just like the little, you know, and I do a little bit of rant, and then we, you know, won't do rant too much because we gotta get to this. We basically recorded 2.5 pods at this point. This is gonna be real fun on the editing.
You can split it. You can do what you got to do, man.
But like when he did the thing with Cardi B and whatever at Netflix, and my biggest thing for Chance was like, he gave some dude the critique, like, oh, well, you're doing all this kind of gimmicky stuff and changing your voice. I'm like, have you heard your stuff? Like, have you not heard what you do, like, and produce? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you literally change your pitch and tone, like, all the freak, like, that's what you do. And
Yeah.
here you're criticizing this dude and saying, oh, it's gimmicky and this is, I just, but like, he seems like a good dude. Like, I love what he's about. Again, it's just one of those things. I'm just like, not my deal. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. No, I dig it. Like he lost me at Color the Book. Like and typically sometimes that happens, right? Like I'll catch it. I'll catch it when he's early. Nobody else is really messing with him like that. And it would be funny because I would play it to other folks. They'd be like, I don't like him. And then he blows up. And then once he blows up, everybody loves him. You know, so
That's how it
it's
goes.
like, well, I remember one time my boy was like, yo, man, this joint's dope. And I was like, yeah, this is the guy I gave you 3 years ago. And you guys poo-pooed it. Y'all poo-pooed it. But now he out here doing songs with 2 Chainz. It's cool. Because one more label try to stop him, you know. But anyway, all right. Moving on.
Top five. Coming into the top 5.
All right, we got the 5. All right. So my top 5 has been shifting, but number 5 for me is KRS, the teacher. I think when you start going into the run that he had from BDP into his solo career, it was pretty much Criminal Minded, you know, talk the dissing, the bridges over. Like he kind of covered all the bases. He could talk about anything. He could rhyme about anything. Phenomenal storyteller. There's only one other rapper that has better breath control as a live performer than him. There's only one. He's on my list too, and we'll get to him later. And I think you can figure out who that is. But you can, but the audience cannot. But like KRS-One was the total package when he was at his prime.
Right.
Like, he had a whole decade where he was unstoppable. From a content standpoint, he was pretty much unstoppable, unreal of how good he was.
Look, no arguments here. Like, anything that goes. So I've heard so much about KRS-One. I've heard, obviously, some of his stuff. Again, I came into hip hop late in life, so a lot of the classics, the Rakims, the KRS-Ones, like, just no reference for me, right? I didn't.
No, I get it. No, I
so
get
it's just kind of like, but I've heard enough people that I respect who love hip hop have a reverence for KRS-One to the point where I'm just like, I would never argue with it. And I've heard some stuff that he's done. I'm just like, I get it.
Okay. No, he's like he just, you know, he's old school. I mean, his prime was in the 80s, late 80s, 90s. Like that was his run, and like the era was different then. Yeah. Like, and the thing is, like, originality was the most important thing back then. And so when you think about that and what he had to, you know, had to maneuver to get his opportunity to break through, you know, you can't, dude, he was undeniable for pretty much a decade. And that was back when people would back then people would diss each other and you wouldn't realize it. Like, they would, like, because back then it was just, you would have to know whose head they were going at back then.
So coming in my top 5, at number 5 is Eminem.
Can't be mad at that.
I mean, we've kind of gone about it a little bit because he was on your list, but to me, wordplay, like from the ciphers to some of his albums to like this dude, he has put together stuff that is just like, when I think of like, somebody asked me who's this or greatest songs or greatest like lines have you ever heard, like, he's one of the ones that come on, like Dead Wrong. First time I heard that, to your point, like, you want guys that make you go, wait, what? The first time I heard that, I literally just stopped and was like, I don't know what I just heard, but I gotta hear it again. and then I gotta hear it again, and I'm just
And
like,
the thing, and no, there ain't too many times in life where I feel sorry for Biggie, and he was dead at that. He was already gone at that point, but that was one of those moments. Like I was mad at Diddy thinking that was a good decision.
right.
Like I didn't understand why. Like I understand you want Eminem on the album, got it, get it, but I don't understand why you made the executive decision to have him close that track the way that he did. Man, oh,
and so it's that type of like ferocity and cleverness, just that, and he just he just delivers it over and I'm just like, so it's I will, again, my bias, my list, it's my thing. I will listen to Eminem records like, and I will forgive so many tracks because then he'll give you an entire track just like that verse, and you're just like, I don't.
he
How could you even do that with
he's
words?
not he's not fair, bro. He's not fair. Like he just is not fair. Like he's not fair. It's not right. He's dead wrong. What I did there. So it's just not, it's not fair, man. Like he's ridiculous. He's ridiculous. Like it's just not fair. And the thing is, man, and I with Eminem, I think he gets a lot of heat because of the color of his skin, but you can't deny how good of an MC he is. But I think it goes back to like, just like I have the one female rapper theory. I also have, back then, it's changed a little bit now. Yeah. I also have the one white rapper theory. Like back then you could only have like one white rapper. And that's not to say that there wasn't other white rappers, because back then I was a big fan of Company Flow. So with LP. So like you could have other white rappers, but the problem is that when it came to getting the fame, there was only going to be one. Just like back then, there was only one female rapper. Like this last era until recently, before Cardi showed up, it was just Nicki. And that was it. It was just Nicki, the occasional Remy Ma, and then that was all, folks, right? Now it's changed. You got more female MCs out in the paint. You got your 3D Natis, your Rhapsodies, your God, now I'm having a brain fart about a lot of these female rappers out here right now.
You got Meg, you got Cash.
You got Meg, yeah. Like there's a lot of them out there in the paint. You know, but Jean Grey, when she wants to come out and out rap the entire universe, she'll show up occasionally. Like, so like you got all these MCs that are out there, but back then there was a time where like you could only have one. And at the time when M was around me, he was the guy, but he was also the guy that could just so happen out rap pretty much anybody that he wanted to.
Yep.
So I can't be mad at him in the 5, man. I can't be mad at him. I can't. Like he's in my 10 for a reason, right?
So who you got coming in at 4?
Number 4, you might not have heard of this character, this MC. But I think the people he's influenced, you've definitely heard of, and that is Kool G Rap. Kool G Rap, you've heard of Kool G Rap. So Kool G Rap, when it came to like storytelling, when it came to bars, when it came to weaving these words together, the rapid fire, like when you talk about the folks that are in everybody's goats, right? When you talk about your hoes, your Nas's, your Bigs, they all say that guy Kool G Rap is the reason. Like, so like he is ridiculous. And he has a couple classics in his repertoire. And on top of that, and like, I'm gonna tell you how dope he is, besides the fact that, you know, you have these 3 MCs that are pretty much, that's the foundation of how great they are. Like you got Rap, Kane, and Rakim and all them. But when you start talking about like the Roots is an institution, right? Every concert, like 99% of the time, A Roots show ends with Black Thought covering Coogee Rap's Men at Work. That's how it ends. And if you understood the first 3 minutes of that song and the ridiculous amount of bars that is occurring in that track, it is unbelievable. So like, he influenced pretty much an entire generations of GOATs in essence. So that's why he has to be on my list. Like Juice Crew, you know, like he was ridiculous. He never gets enough credit. He never gets enough credit for how good he was. Never. He'll never get enough credit for how good he was. Because he wasn't the guy, he wasn't the ladies' man. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't the guy that was out here trying to do the commercial shop. He wasn't out here trying to compete with LL or Big Daddy Kane. Like he was about them bars, boss. Right. Like that's what he was about. So he'll never get the recognition. Like he'll never get it. But but he has to be on my list because of the level of the tentacles that he brought out. So just during that era.
Let's check him out. I've heard the name. I've never.
Don't worry. I'm gonna probably put 2 to 3 tracks per artist on this list, and I already know which ones I'm putting for him. Men at Work is definitely gonna be one of them, and Road to Riches will probably be another, and then I'll come up with a third one. But right. And then that'll give you an idea of like how ridiculous he was, how insane he was. So, what's your 4, boss?
So coming in number 4 for me is Big.
Oh yeah, we knew he was coming. He always coming. It's always coming. So look, man, I get it, man. Like I anticipate I'm gonna get attacked because he's not in my 10, and it's not because I don't think he's a great MC, because he is. I just think the fact that, and I understand the concept of his untimely death, but I think we tend to have assumptions when we start thinking about these things, right? So when we have the assumptions, we assume that, oh, he'll never fall off. We don't know. Like we don't know. I mean, we can go off his history. I mean, based on history, Big was going to be due for a bad album.
Yeah, I mean,
like it's just the way it is. Like I'm a big Outkast fan, and I tend to try to forget Idlewild. And I don't think Idlewild's a terrible album, but compared to the others, right. People will be like, "Well, what is Idlewild? That's just a movie." Like that's what the normal Outkast fan would do. Like, oh, that's just a movie. It's not really an album, But now,
so for me again, like it's Big was one of my early entries. Ready to Die was one of my early entries in hip hop, right? And again, it was for like I didn't live that specific life. I'm not gonna sit here and try and make it like my life was all this and I was in the ghetto. I was fortunate enough, right, that although I grew up in the inner city of LA, my mom moved me out, but I saw a lot of like, it was close enough to me to where I saw a lot of the things that were depicted in a lot of this stuff. And so hearing from and being from the West Coast, hearing Big and from just the way he could tell the stories, the way he could put things together, like it was, I was like, all right, cool. Now, granted, of course, I got caught up in the whole East Coast, West Coast beef, blah, 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 whatever. I roll with my coast. But I couldn't deny the fact that I was like, dude, he had a way of putting things together that not only put you in that position, but that spoke to people that you just couldn't help but rock to. Like, so anybody to me that is like, if you turn it on and like, just unconsciously, you just, the head started not like, it's just, and that was Big. Like he just, I mean, any freaking beat, like he just found a flow, he found a pocket. It was so easy for him to put stuff together. So I put it off of, mine is based off of just that body of work. I don't look at, if he wouldn't have done this or whatever, it was like, nah, this was, for me, this is what kind of opened the rest of my aperture for hip hop as I started to kind of learn the things. So that's why he's up there for me.
Yeah, no, Ready to Die is undeniable. Ready to Die is undeniable. I can't. I'm not gonna be out here trying to say otherwise. Ready to Die is undeniable. I mean, life after death has its holes, and I think a lot of people don't want to admit said holes. But Ready to Die is undeniable, undeniable. His cadence, his flow, undeniable.
It's one of those, to me, like, it goes in a time capsule. Like, you have to put it in there. Like, it just because it just tells so much of a story of where we were at that time, and like you can't leave it out. All right.
You know what? You know what's his thing about Big is, like, I guess he got inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year, and I remember when it happened, and I said, I understand why, I get it, but then it comes to the questions, right? And that's why it's hard for me to put him in the 10, because then you have, all right, so if you're gonna put the Notorious B.I.G. in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he only had 2 albums while he was here. You're opening up a ridiculous can of worms of who else could be eligible for that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing when you think about NWA, right? I remember when NWA got in, and I understood why they got in, but I think when NWA got in, I think it was about the solo careers of the folks within the group. Because of Dr. Dre and Ice Cube, and then MC Ren came along for the MC Ren because he wrote a lot of the stuff. Eazy-E wasn't there anymore. DJ Yella, so it made. I understand why they did that, but I think I can argue that Ice Cube by himself should be in there. I could argue that Dr. Dre by himself should be in there, but I think because NWA got in there as a group, that will never happen. And that's where it kind of lies, right? Because when you think about NWA, right? NWA had 2 albums: Straight Outta Compton, Cube Left, and N4L. I'll just call N4L for the sake of the culture, N4L. And I would argue that N4L is probably Dr. Dre's best production for a record that he's ever done.
Over the Chronic?
Yeah. N4L? Yeah. But then again, I think Doggy Style has. I think Doggy Style. I'll take Doggy Style over Chronic, but that's just me. And then it's not a knock on the Chronic.
Right. No, I got you.
No, but I think when you think about, like, the production that he did on N4L was off the charts. And it doesn't say that the Chronic was black, because it wasn't. Right. But I'm just saying, when you talk about, like, the best that he did, like, part of the reason why that album was so damn good was because of what Dre did. Because the conscience of the group was gone with Cube gone.
Right.
So they had to make it up in other places. And you could see it in N4L, right? But the production on that record, man. Like, another album that doesn't get enough credit of how well Dre produced was DOC, No One Does It Better. Like when you look at, like, what, like, everybody goes to the Chronic, but, like, when you look at what he did before the Chronic happened, he had some heaters prior to the Chronic, man. Like, I think Straight Outta Compton, he was trying to figure it out, and then, like, DOC's album, he figured it out. Then NWA second album, he had it. And then Death Row benefited from it with the Chronic and Doggy Style. So, but at that point he was it. He was in, because he was much more raw back then too. Yeah, like he was super more of a perfectionist once he got to the point of the Chronic and Doggy Style. So, but all right. So where am I?
You're on 3.
I'm on 3. Number 3, Hove.
I'm
like
yeah. Look, listen. I'm not gonna. I honestly thought you would leave him off, but
you really think why?
So you made it. When you talked about Cube and those four albums like being like the greatest stretch, I'm like, so then how the hell? I was like, did 96 through 2003 just never happen? When Hove literally dropped every summer. Like
He dropped every summer. But do we think all those albums from 96 to 2003 are classics? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I do not. I don't. But I think,
no,
no. Like, it's undeniable what Jay did from 96 to 2003, right? So from
right,
96 to 2003, he dropped an album every single year, right?
right,
He was
and he sing like, were they all classics? No, I will agree with you. They're not all classics.
no,
If
they're
I
not.
look at it, I don't even count. I'd call it three-ish, four, maybe, depending. But my
Three.
point is,
Three. Yeah, I got three. Based on
he
from 96 to 03,
right.
yeah, I got three.
But what he did,
I
but
got
think
three.
about it, like he drove, like he was the market. Like he drove everything that you like. Everybody was chasing him. You know what I'm
But
saying? Like
the thing that people forget about what happened in '96, and the thing is, I'm gonna be clear. Like 1996 is probably like my favorite year of hip hop. Like from a album, what came out. Like I talked about the fact that like it was the 25th anniversary of the score. The score. What else came out that day? My memory is like not working today. Oh, the score. All Eyes on Me, Tupac, and Skills. And nobody talked about Skills because the score and Tupac came out the same day as that Skills album. But that Skills album is really good. Like, it is ridiculously good. But nobody knows it's good because he ran into the buzzsaw that was Killing Me Softly and California Love. So he ran into a double buzzsaw, and Skills had nowhere to go, and that's why he had to go into his ghostwriting world. But when you think about like days like that, like people don't understand that Reasonable Doubt came out, right? You know who came out the following week after Reasonable Doubt? It Was Written and Stakes Is High. Came out 1 week after Reasonable Doubt. So the follow-up to Illmatic and De La's recovery album after Blue Home Mind State came out the following week. Besides the fact that Outkast came out in the fall, besides the fact that the Roots came out in the fall, like there was a ridiculous amount of content that happened in 1996. And I think what happened with Reasonable Doubt was that Reasonable Doubt was overshadowed by the fact that he didn't really have his breakthrough yet.
right.
And I think, but when 96 was rolled, when I was in high school, I had a Reasonable Doubt. I knew what the deal was. And then like he came out with Volume 1, and then that terrible ass single he did. I stand by this, that Sunshine almost single-handedly ruined that man's career. That hurt. But the thing is, Volume 1 had a lot of joints on it though. Like Where I'm From, like when Where I'm From should always be performed at a Jay-Z show. Like Where I'm From should always be performed at a Jay-Z show. And then like Volume 2, he was out of there. Like
That was it.
at that point, he was out of there. I'm not as big a fan of Volume 2 as most folks either. Like, but Volume 2, he was out of there. He hit his stride.
So for me, like, so here's the thing: is funny, and it's I'm gonna have the same. Hopefully, I'm gonna have the same conversation with my buddy of mine that I went to high school with, who ended up becoming an MC and like has had a long career. But for me, again, so Ready to Die is my introduction into hip hop, and I started venturing out. I didn't know about Jay until Volume 2.
Yeah,
But
that's how a lot of people. That's how it happened for a lot of folks.
right, but then when I heard Volume 2, here's the thing: I didn't know what I was listening to, because I had heard tracks off of Volume 1. So I did hear Sunshine, and I was like, all right, whatever. But I heard Streets is Watching, and I was like,
Yes.
yo, why does this dude sound familiar? So then I started going back. I was like, yo, I rock with this volume 2 so hard. And I was like, yo, this dude is not, I was like, I like this, right? And so again, like to me, just watching from that point on, so it didn't start to me in 96. So volume 2, like, and because I feel like the East Coast and the South to an extent kind of it was a different flavor of rap. I feel like you guys were always so heavy because it took so long for it to get to us on the West Coast, right?
But
Unless you,
you know what the crazy thing is about that, especially when you mentioned the South, because I've always believed, and I've always had this theory that like when it came to like the MCs from the South versus the MCs from the East and the MCs from the West, I've always believed that the MCs from the South and the MCs from the West could always relate to each other. And the reason why I always thought that was because the East Coast was always snobby with theirs. Like they were always snobby, like, well, we built this. This is us. We got this. But the reality is that the MCs from like the South, because of the fact that we're not New York, we got everything. And so and it's funny, like a few years ago, Fonte did this interview talking about will the South ever fall off? And the one thing he explained was, he said that the South will never fall off because when I was a kid, we didn't just get all the, like the Miami bass with Uncle Luke and all that stuff. We got Nas, we got Jay, we got Big, we got Cube, we got all of it, because we didn't really have that station,
right,
you know, like we do now. Like, well, now it's all syndicated or whatever, but like we didn't really have that back then. So like when you got all these kids from the South, like from Atlanta, North Carolina, South Carolina, that hear all this stuff, they get more out of it than just the crunk music and the Miami bass music. So then you get a rapper like Andre 3000, you get an MC like a Scarface, you get an MC like Ludacris, who's, even though he's from Chicago, he got his start as an MC in Atlanta. Right. So like you get all these folks who actually you get a Killer Mike, you know. And the thing is, he was the comedy was like, you can never, like, none of these rappers can ever be like a Killer Mike. Like Killer Mike can outbar you and then go and do a freaking campaign with Bernie Sanders. Like, you're not going to be able to compete with that. Like, he just is different down there. And I don't think New York ever took the time to keep their sound. They were too busy trying to follow everybody else. Whereas the West Coast, when Kendrick made the comeback to bring the West Coast back, it was still West. Like, you guys never lost your sound, just like the South never lost their sound. Right. New York lost their sound. And I think Griselda is working very hard for them to get their sound back, but they got to be able to embrace that shit. And I think they're struggling with that. But so nah, man, it's got to be Hov. Like you can't, like when you talk about the longevity and the relevance that he's had, and the fact that he's been so good, like 444, like remember, think like 444. Some people didn't like 444. I love 444.
Listen, the blasphemous statement coming ahead. The people that didn't like 444 have to be younger.
It depends, right?
I cannot find a guy our age that is a Jay-Z fan that is not like 444, because it was.
I can find, because if you're about the rap, if you're about the art form of it, some people might think it's a little bit boring, but I think the problem with Jay is that the album was great. I love the production because I love No ID. So like, I love the production. I thought the album was great. You know, it's been a while since Jay did a whole album with just one producer. So I loved that aspect. And the thing is, I remember like the moment when worlds collided, when Jay did the whole Unplugged album with the Roots. And I remember the story behind that and what the original premise was. Like, Jay had every intention to make that joint a B-sides performance. Like, he didn't want to do any singles. Like, because the Roots knew how to play every track. So he was like, I want to do these joints. And like MTV was like, no, you gotta hit the You gotta hit the hits. You gotta like you can do some of your songs for your new album, but you gotta hit the hits type of thing. And that was in Blueprint. That was when Blueprint was out, so it was a focus on Blueprint. So like so like it's like you gotta do the hits. So when Jay announced that he was gonna do the B-side show, I was like, oh, I'm in. Like I gotta get this recorded. So he did the first one, and I was like, yeah. Like when you think about his catalog and how many things that there ain't too many rappers on earth that can go and do a whole set with no singles.
No, exactly.
There's not.
I mean, so look, so he's all right. So he's on my list. Obviously, he's higher because for number 3 for me is Black Thought.
That's fine. I have no problem with that.
I
like you know that I'm not going to argue with you with Black Thought at number 3. Like I'm not going to argue with you with that.
I have never, dude. I'll tell people this: like, just go outside of his albums, with the Roots, all the stuff that he's done. Like, go listen to his freestyle at Hot 97.
Yeah.
And watch this man go off. Like, I don't even have the words. Like this dude, I'm just like.
So I actually got to meet Black Thought, and it was kind of crazy how I met him. So he was doing a talk at Harvard, and he was doing a talk. This was in 2016. It was the same day that Prince passed away, and so you know he was doing a talk at Harvard, and I made the decision to drive down there and go. I got a ticket and I went. It was free, so I was like, all right, I'll go. And you know, and I brought a couple of the Roots albums with me. Maybe I'll get luck up and maybe he'll sign one, maybe take a picture or whatever. And I guess, like I said, and I asked the question about, can we sit anywhere? You know, I'm coming from Rhode Island. And I guess the person who was running the event thought that I said Long Island. And so he went and told Black Thought that there's somebody that came all the way from Long Island to see you. So then Black Thought was like, I got to meet this guy. So when he was like, yeah, he wants to meet you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I walked in there and I was dressed. I was in a suit. I think I posted the picture on Facebook because I was in a suit because it was Bring a Child to Work Day. So I brought my child to work day before I went to the event. And I had the suit on and we talked for a bit. We chopped it up, talked about life and whatever. He signed a couple of my albums. He took a picture. I cleared up that I wasn't from Long Island. I was from Rhode Island. He followed me for Twitter. Like one of my favorite MC followed me on Twitter, right? So like it's kind of wild, right? So like, he's very, like, he's super private, but I think he also realizes that his privacy is also a detriment to the group. But he was telling me that he was working on doing some solo shit. And like the following week after I met him, he released Making a Murderer with Styles P that Knife produced, which was bananas. And I'm like, and I told him, I was like, look, bro, I want you guys to release another Roots album, but if you're gonna be dropping shit like this, I don't need another one. You mean 16 Roots albums? Yeah, pretty good. You wanna, if you out here trying to do solo albums, go at it.
Yeah. And
then like a year after that, he did the freestyle. And the thing is, before that freestyle happened, he did this back and forth with Method Man that was ridiculous. And it was so ridiculous that when, and I think it was on Sway, when Sway was like, yo, we got to get you guys to rap some bars. And Black Thought sitting there ready, like he's ready. No phone, none of that shit, ready. Meth is like, oh, I got to get my phone out.
Yep.
So like, so when you see shit like that, it's a different, and just so you know, I'm next at number 2, right? So Thought's number 2 for me. So like, okay. So I will just continue the conversation, right? so because just to save some time. So when you think about the back and forth that he did with Meth, and then a few weeks after that, he walks into He walks into Hot 97. He sits down and he raps for 10 minutes straight. Didn't sweat until minute 8. Ridiculous amount of breath. Like it was more about the video of seeing it. Like I don't think the effect on this would have been nearly as good if it was just the audio. Right?
No. You had
you had to watch it because you had to understand that individual does things that nobody else can do. And the thing is, people are like, well, I don't know who he is, because more people probably know him about the fact that he's been rocking it with the Tonight Show for the Late Night with Jimmy Fallon into the Tonight Show for the last decade.
Which sucks.
To realize,
I said, which sucks that I feel like more people know him for that and don't really like know who this cat is, but I get it.
No, but the thing is too, right? So that means you got two sets of audiences. Because I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you a funny story. And it was the most hilarious thing ever. I think it was like 2-3 years ago when I saw the Roots when they came to Boston. Because typically they do like a holiday tour. And they always hit Boston during the holiday tour. It was like 5 dates that they do during the holidays. So I would hit, if I'm in town, if I'm not going home, I would be able to hit the Roots show in Boston. So the last time I went, me and my wife went. We ran into this couple that was waiting. They had to be in their 60s, right? And I remember, I'll never forget this shit. I was like, so you're going to see the Roots? And it was like, yeah, I love Tariq, right? I love Tariq. I love Questlove, right? So now, like, they open up a different audience.
Yeah.
And their shows have changed because of that too. Like they don't like in the past, like before Fallon, they were mainly like, they would go for like 2 hours at a time and they would perform pretty much just their stuff, right? But now, because of the fact that they're Fallon, their show is a lot more, it's still vicious. Don't get me wrong. But they understand that the audience has changed. Like you're gonna have a couple, like they're still performing Roots songs and they're still going deep into their catalog when they perform them. But then there's also the fact that you're gonna also perform. They do more covers. Yeah. Like they'll cover more, Sly and the Family Stone and other artists, and they also do Hip Hop 101 more often, which I enjoy. I love Hip Hop 101. So but it's amazing. Like they have a different, like before it was just college kids and the college kids got older. But now it's the college kids that got older and the folks that watch the late night show.
The late night show, yeah.
That wants to go see them. So like they still sell out. And it's unbelievable. Like that 10-minute freestyle, man, I felt vindicated when it happened. Because there was no way you could deny it at that point. Yeah. Like some people would deny it and say, you never had a solo career. And I stand by that 10-minute freestyle was an album. I'm rolling with it. I'm gonna put the pieces together to explain to you why I think it was an album. So Questlove has this podcast called Questlove Supreme. And when they went to South by Southwest, they had Scarface. And Scarface was talking about Black Thought and talking about how, he invited Scarface to a session to hear some of the stuff that he had. And Scarface was talking about a lot of the stuff that he was listening to. And Scarface was like, he's the greatest rapper of all time. It's like, that's just the way it is. Like I was like, I'm afraid to work with the man, but I'll work with him. At some point I'm gonna do a song with him, but I can't, he was like, I can't do, like, he started playing me Streams of Thought. And then he said the line about the bull in the China shop. And I was like, same line that he said during the free. I was like, so I'm rolling with, so I call it, like, even though it's the Hot 97 freestyle, I call it Streams of Thought Volume 0. Like that was Volume 0. Like because the thing, and the funny now, and I'm gonna give you an interesting stat. So like the last Roots album was and then you shoot your cousin. He only has 6 verses on that album. That freestyle was longer than the 6 verses that he had on that album. So that goes back to what I think that, all right, this was an album. Like, it was an album. He just went in there and he freaking ran through a whole album. And the bars are better than anybody you ever heard in life. And the fact that he performed it in front of you. And then, like, I guess he said that after he did that freestyle and the reaction that he got, that's when he knew he was gonna start dropping streams of thoughts. Like, he said, I gotta start dropping these albums. So like, he's got, like, he already dropped one with Knife. He dropped one with Salam Remy, and he dropped one with Sean C. And he said he's got one with Premier. He has one with Premier, David. He has one with Premier. I don't know when we're gonna hear this album with Premier. He has a Streams of Thought with DJ Premier.
I can't. I don't like it. That's not
like, dude. Like,
no.
Listen.
No.
And it's gonna happen. Like, we're gonna hear this eventually.
I know it is. And
the thing is, and I said this. Now, every single time he drops a Streams of Thought album, I say the same thing. Like, if he keeps dropping these Streams of Thought albums, I want to hear Endgame. Don't get me wrong, but I think Endgame is gonna be a while, right? But if he keeps dropping like these Streams of Thoughts, these volumes, I'm good. I'm cool. Let's keep it. Keep dropping them. Keep dropping them. Like, just bring them.
So our 3 and 2 were flipped, right? So Jay-Z's number 2 on mine. Okay. So we didn't went into depth about it. We talked about it. Is what it is.
I think I know who your one is.
That easy. Like, it's not even.
But we're you know, it's interesting how close near the top it was with the 3. I know who your one is. It's obvious who your one is. Yeah. I don't think you know who my one is.
I have no clue who your one is. Huh? I have no clue who your one is.
My one is Rakim. Like, it just, okay, like, that makes sense. My one is Rakim. Like, it's like, I think what he did, it goes back to the run, right? He had a phenomenal run with Eric B and Rakim. All those albums were freaking classics, right? But then when you think about what he brought to the craft, like, after the bar line, finishing bars in the next line, like the ridiculous things that he did back then. And you're talking about, like, you know, his debut was in 87. Yeah. So, like, you think about what he did back then that people still do to this day. Like, people do those type of things to this day. Like, he was just ridiculous on the mic, you know? So he's my one, and I know who your one is. Yeah, like, it's clear as day who your one is.
So the thing that I can't remember where I read it, or was it an interview that I listened to, but I remember they referred to Rakim like as a tactician, like how he put stuff together, and that, like, a lot of
dots,
right,
the dots,
like,
yeah.
It's just it was, and a lot of MCs like studied that, to your point, that he just had this effect on really an entire generation. Like, I don't think it's a far reach to say that he really influenced an entire generation of where hip hop went from a craft and artistry standpoint, because he was really the first one. As, like, again, I can't remember if I was reading or hearing an interview that really kind of, like, it went from, like, raw talent of, okay, I'm just on the block, we putting together, like, to, like, no, like, I'm literally gonna put this together. Like, I'm doing it purposely. Like, I want to deliver this in a certain way, and that really kind of led to a lot of, you know, for me, like, so the reason why I respect it is because that led to a lot of the artists that I love that are on this list. Because when I listen to what I love about it is that intellectual tactician type of, like, this was cleverly put together. This wasn't, like, I don't knock Jay-Z about, you know, never writes anything down, goes in, does it on one take. That's cool. But it's something about meticulous aspects of, like I'm just gonna ride this beat and I'm gonna just
That's what he did, yo. Like, and that's what he did, and it was it was uncanny how good he was, and he was such a natural at it, and he just knew how good he was, and he knew that he was the top kid, he was the top guy in charge, and that's just how he was. And it was so devastating when I heard he signed with Dre and they didn't get the album out, man. Like I like it was just unbelievable how good he was. And he's done songs with some of these artists that are on both of our lists. Like he's done a song with Jay, he's done a song with Black Thought. Like I think he's done a song with Nas too, I believe. But like he's worked with all these goats. And I think Rakim, he was the standard, and he still is the standard. Like he will never be forgotten. It is a travesty that he's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like when you think about everybody else has already been selected,
right?
It's a travesty that he's not there, because he pretty much, like, you know, there's always something that shifts it, and he shifted it, and there's things still there that you still are finding with what he did in his run, because he's so good. It's just unbelievable how good he was.
I think tomorrow's gonna be a Rakim and Karos one day while I'm working.
It should be.
I think it should be. So look, man, if anybody that knows me, like even a little bit, like it's not hard to guess who my number one is. Pop. It's always has been. Yeah. Like this was, if I take you through like my introductory to hip hop, right, was, it was Ready to Die kind of brought me in, and then to the point I made earlier, Jay-Z and Volume 2 kind of started expanding my aperture. But then even before, All Eyes on Me, but I came across Pac with Strictly for My Niggas. And it was I quickly saw, like, one of the big things about me, always big on words. Study, like I read all the freaking time as a kid. And I instantly, when I would listen to Pac songs, it was like I heard what he was saying, but also saw like the story he was telling underneath, and the way he was going about talking to different things. And I became a fan, and then it was like from there to, by the time All Eyes on Me came out, like that was it. I wrote with him, like, because everything that he was, not only from an artist standpoint, but I also saw what he was doing. Like I watched a lot of his stuff outside of what he did for his albums, and everybody looked at him as this thug and all this stuff or whatever. But I saw the speeches that he did at, little conferences and stuff like that. I saw the interviews when I'm like, yo, like, I saw at that early age how the media was portraying him a certain way by saying like, here's this 10-minute interview, we're going to show you this 2-minute clip. But then you play the whole 10-minute interview and you hear the things that he's talking about, and it's like, yo, like the cat, like, and he was, I didn't realize it then, but I knew I was watching somebody special. Looking back on it now, there's no doubt in my mind, like had he not been murdered, he would have been a revolutionary, like easy. Like just,
but the thing is, man, you got to understand the strategy that he was putting, because you got to remember, like when he first started, when he started his career as an MC, he wasn't really gaining much traction. Like he didn't really hit it until probably like he started finally getting some level of traction with Me Against the World.
Yeah,
with Dear Mama. But then like once he went to jail, and then he ended up on death row. Once he embraced the gangster, the thug life, everything changed.
Yeah.
So then at that point, because then it's about trying to sell records. And I think for him, he knew that he had to get to the people. And at the rate that he was going, he couldn't get to the people with what he was doing before that.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, because that ended up trying to get him getting to the people and causing his demise.
Right.
So it's just, it's so sad when you think about it, because, and I always say this when we always have when the debate goes with Tupac versus Big, like Tupac is much closer to my top 10 than Big is. And I think one of the biggest reasons why is A, he has more material. B, he has more of a purpose. Like a lot of the MCs, if you notice in my 10, the majority of my MCs that are on my list, they had a purpose.
Right.
Like there was some level of a purpose, right? And one thing that Tupac had, he had a purpose. Like I think people remember his Death Row days and forget that his Death Row days, in essence, while he was alive, was only one album.
Yeah.
So and I'll give you, and I think people don't forget that. And here's another crazy stat since we're talking about Death Row. Snoop Dogg has more albums on No Limit Records than he does on Death Row.
Yep.
But people always talk about what he did in Death Row. But the reality is, like, a lot of these artists that were on Death Row didn't really have much. Like Tupac only had, like, he had All Eyes on Me, he died, and Machiavelli was released after he passed away. And that was it. Like, but before that, he had everything. He had Tupacalypse Now, he had Me Against the World, Strictly, he had other stuff. Whereas Big kind of his life was cut short before he even got the chance to hit the rocket, right? But Pac's voice was super powerful, and it's too bad that it was taken away, because I think hip hop would have definitely been different, because he was getting ready to leave the label. He was getting ready to leave Death Row.
Oh yeah, it was
a matter of time at that point, because once he realized what he could do without Death Row, it was just a matter of time.
I mean, I don't go as far as saying there's no, if Pac is not killed, then like Jay-Z doesn't go to where he's at. Like, but I think that it's definitely, I don't think he has the run, right? I think the run is short.
I think he has the run, because you got to remember too, right? Like, he would have the run, but do I think Volume 2 would sell 5 million records? No.
Right.
But at the same time, but then you ask yourself the next question: do you think Jay-Z would have been taking a proper path? Because he was independent. Like, I don't think people understand that Jay was independent.
Right.
So even if Volume 2 would have been it, he still could have done other things on his own because of his independence and because of the ownership that he had. So when you take that, because like versus like your Tupacs, your Bigs, they ain't really own their stuff. I mean, shoot, Big was on Bad Boy. Nobody owned anything there.
Nobody. So when you think about it from that aspect, I think Jay would have been the megastar. Probably not, but I don't think you can deny how good Jay was. Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think you could deny that he could have still ended up being successful. Maybe you can ask the question if he would have continued his run. It might not have been as mega, but maybe at a point you would have. Maybe the independent artist would have been more forthcoming if Jay didn't have that run that he had.
And here's the thing, like Jay, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I feel this way, and you're a little bit more detailed, but I feel like Jay never. That run is so dominant because, like, it was just accepted, and so everybody knew that, like, okay, Jay's here, like this is it. He became the standard for that generation, and people were just like, look, I'm trying to get up to that point, and so Jay never felt threatened. So Jay did whatever he wanted.
I'm not going to agree with that. Because you got to remember, man, like, I understand that Volume 2 was out of here, but there was this rapper that came out in 98 too, and he released 2 albums that year, and his name was DMX. And DMX was slotted at the 1 when Jay was there, like, because DMX was theirs, DMX was purely theirs.
But here's where I'm going with this, though. Jay never changed his. Like, he never adapted to anybody's around. He just stayed on his course, right? Basically, what I'm saying.
He like when you go from Volume 1, like, this is and this might be another blasphemy, right? Because y'all might think I'm wild when I say this, but when out of the 3 volumes from 1, 2, and 3, my favorite is 3. Like I will take 3 over the other 2. And there's a couple of reasons why. One, you can hear the damn conflict that Jay's going through in volume 3. Because volume 1 was kind of like a, all right, bad single. City Used Mine was dope, but bad single, Sunshine, try to go for the stars, failed miserably. Then volume 2 happened, anything, Hard Knock Life, Can I Get It with Ja Rule? Because X, Jay, and Ja, they were the standard bearers of Def Jam at that time.
Right.
And the thing is, Ja reached some high heights, and so did DMX around the same time Jay was there, because Ja had a run outselling Jay for a minute during that time, but a lot of people don't talk about that. And so did X. Both of them did. But a lot of people don't talk about it. Like, DMX had 5 straight #1 albums. Like, people don't talk, like, X was there. But when you look at, so volume 2, he had the hits, and then 99, he had Big Pimpin', but then it was about him trying to build the label too. So he was trying to build the Rock with Beans, Bleak, and everybody else that was coming. Like, they were, at this point, they were coming, right? But the thing that I prefer volume 3 over the others, because you saw the conflict on whether or not he still wanted to be that gangster rapper versus understanding the fact that he has this level of success. So you saw the conflict within that record. And you saw, like, Come and Get Me is ridiculous. Like, Come and Get Me is ridiculous. Dope Man is ridiculous. Like, there's a, like I think people knock volume 3 because, and Big Pimpin', oh my God. Like, yeah, it was ridiculous. He freaking threw UGK on it. And Pimp C out here out rhyming the entire universe with like 6 bars. Like, it was unbelievable. So, like, when you think about like volume 3 and what volume 3 was, you saw that conflict. And it's still his second best-selling album because it came out through volume 2. But like that's why I preferred 3, because I thought, and lyrically he was that might have been peak Cove. like he was feeling himself a lot, but you also saw that conflict going back and forth within it. But I don't know, but like the thing is, like, I don't think he even anticipated the success that he was going to get off of 2.
No, I don't think so either. And I think, here's the thing. I feel like this, if you had another, so yes, X came, so did Ja Rule, and it was,
they needed each other.
They did.
They needed each other.
They did. I just, and look, this could be like biased because I'm able to look back on it, right? And so at the time, maybe it was different, but like, none of those cats to me, like, when I first heard Ja Rule, like, I knew he wasn't
Jay, like, from a lyrical standpoint.
Right. Like, like, I know
he wasn't in Jay, neither was X.
Even though you're not going to be here. Like, you're going to be hot now. This is cool. I'm rocking with it. I love it. But you're not, like, there was something about them that I'm like, it's not long lasting. And so I think even Jay could look at that and like, they're going to push me. So where I'm going with this is, if Pac's there, right, and you have Jay, like, I wonder if the trajectory of what Jay does changes, because you literally have somebody else that because I would have said, like, Pac would have went album for album with them from this 96 to 03 run. Like, they just would have, it would have been like Jay dropping, I'm dropping 2. I'm dropping 3. So where
you would have had that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Where X and Ja was like, oh, we'll come in for a little bit, but Pac would have been there Jay, you dropping again? All right, I'm dropping again. Yeah. And so but that would have been great for us. Exactly. It would have been fantastic for us, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, again, I don't think that means Jay never exists. I think we see a different Jay, and I have no clue what that would have been. Better, worse, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, when you truly have that, and we'll never know. It's the whole thing, like, what's the best team in basketball? You just never know. You can't compare errors, so we'll never know. But that's always fun.
When you think about, but the thing is, like, I think the fact that Jay had X and Jay had Ja, it was important. Like, I think X had a shot to have longer longevity if he didn't have the demons, right? Yeah. But like Ja, like, you knew Ja was gimmicky when that man came out like Cookie Monster, and then 50 just eradicated him, and then that was that, and that was all she wrote. Like, you know, but I think X had the energy to be around for a long time. I didn't think Ja had it. Like, but Jay, I will give you that Jay stayed the course, but Jay also leveraged some of the success of them, because like Jay ain't working with Swiss Beats if X ain't there. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some like you know what I'm saying? So like there's some aspects of it that you ain't getting certain things without X being there.
Because to your point, like, so I'm looking at I'm pulling up the track listings that you're talking about, right? So there's volume 3, you had UGK and Big Pimpin'. Volume 2, Get 6, Money Cash House, DMX, right? What I will always give Jay-Z, man, is this dude, from a business perspective, and I don't know enough about if it was always him or somebody in this corner, it just was him, like, okay, X is on the rise. Instead of going instead of going completely head to head, I'm gonna go head to head, but I'm gonna pull him in, put him on an album. And so what does that do? So it's like, okay, here's mine, and I'm a draft off of you while I'm competing with you. Like,
but you know who else he put on that album too? Ja Rule's on that album too.
Yep, just saw that.
Look, man, like X was the like people forget, like Volume 2 was super successful, but people forget that X was the top guy.
Yeah.
when Jay sold 5 million records, X was the guy. Like, that was supposed to be the anchor bearer. Jay was there too, but X was the guy. And like, but Def Jam benefited from having both X and Jay. Then you had Ja on the way. So like they had their combination coming. But X was the, like, people forget that X was the guy. Like, he was it.
So I don't, because let me see if this was, what was the original tour? This is the only, because I'm not a concert goer.
Yeah, the Def Jam. Yeah, I didn't go to that show with DMX, Jay, Redman, and Meth. Yeah, that was a ridiculous show. I never got to go though, man. But I look, man, like
the only concert that I went to as an adult, and I'm 1,000% positive I had a contact high after Method Man and Redman like performed, and dude, X, like, I had never seen anything like it. The energy that this dude projected throughout a crowd, like, was, I can only imagine if this was like what it was like to see Michael, right? When I was a kid, I used to always see these concerts of Michael Jackson. You see grown men passing out. I was like, what the, like, X, dude, when he came on stage and just, like, it went through the, and everybody was like, shh. And he came out like that, the pyrotechnics, the beat was dropping. This dude was just everywhere. This little tiny dude just running around. Everybody on their feet, man. I don't care if, like, you was like, this is the wackest concert ever. X come out there, you like, oh, it was crazy. It was crazy.
I remember, I've seen DMX twice. Like, the first time I saw DMX was like on accident. I was at a Scarface show, and DMX and Swiss Beats was a surprise guest, and they performed like 2 songs. And then later on that year, he was performing at the Roots Picnic. And I know he was still going through his things, trying to stay sober and all that. And I remember, like, typically the day before, you get the schedule, the set times of when everybody's going to perform. So like when you see DMX, when you're thinking, oh, DMX is going to perform later in the day, DMX was on at 4:00, right? And it's funny because I always tell the story when I go to Roots Picnic, like, typically the 4:00 slot is typically like an act that's either an old school act or like a popular person at that time. Like, I remember the first time I saw Macklemore and Ryan Lewis was at the Roots Picnic, and they had that 4:00 slot too. And I'll never forget this shit. The people were walking in at 3:00. Walking in, like, it was a bunch of high schoolers, teenagers walking in at 3:00. Macklemore and Ryan Lewis walks in at 4:00. They perform, killed that shit, killed it, no question about it. Back when Thrift Shop was at its peak, right? And then crowds, it was flooded. And then they do their set, it was about an hour, and then they leave. And now you have space again. So DMX, so at 4:00, DMX was there for that year. And the crowd that showed up Like I didn't realize there were 15,000 people there at that point until it got close to 4 o'clock. And I was in VIP. I do VIP every year at the picnic.
Right.
I don't like dealing with, like I like to be in separate bathrooms with all these humanoids and all this other shit. So I was VIP, and like DMX was there, and the whole crowd was out there, and he was on the main stage. No, he was on the secondary stage, because that was the first year they switched the stages of which one was the main. And he was there, and everybody was there, and he, like, I thought he was like, at first I was like, is he going off tables? Like, nah, that's him. And I was like, shit, it is him. And we're talking 3 or 4 years ago when I saw this guy.
Yeah.
He still got it. Like, he could go and tour for the rest of his life on his first 3 or 4 albums, as long as he can just stay sober. Like, if he stays sober, because he is unbelievable live. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Nothing like it, man. I've never seen. Yeah, I the pictures, literally the mental pictures I have from that night, from that tour, just. And so, think of it. So this is probably why I've never been to another tour, because that's my first ever tour, my first ever concert, right? So I'm like,
you ever heard? If I told you my first concert, you'll laugh.
I'm like, how do I go? Like, so when people are like, oh, I'm going to see this concert, I'm like, I'm not impressed. I was like, dude, I saw Redman, Method Man, Jay-Z, DMX. Like, I've never seen another concert close to that packed. And so, and plus I'm just not a concert guy like that, but
yeah. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to go to another show again. Like I've been going like, I used to go like crazy, because that was a thing that I did when I was up. Yeah. Since I'm up here, I'm close to Boston, so everybody stops at Boston. Like everybody. And if they don't stop at Boston, they'll stop at Providence. They'll stop at one of these towns up here, right? To get their northeast sector. So like I would catch a lot of people. But like, you know, like I've seen everybody separate. Like I've seen Meth separate. I've seen Redman. I've seen Red and Meth together. But like when you talk about like I've seen some crazy shows. There's one concert I regret not going to, because when we were in college, Malcolm and Nick went to go see MJ, and that ended up being the last performed in the United States. Like because that was right before 9/11. Like they flew back literally days before 9/11 happened. So you know, and that ended up being the last time Michael Jackson performed in the States. And I think Malcolm was planning on going to the Europe show, and then he passed away.
When I found out he was touring, I was like, I'm going. I was like, because I just remember watching him as a kid, watching all these videos, and I was like, okay, I got to the point where I can, I was like, I'm just gonna make it happen. And then he passed away. I was like, damn, that sucks. So look, everybody, appreciate you guys tuning in. C3 Squad, I love you. Appreciate guest David rolling by. We're gonna wrap this up. So as y'all know, to the next conversation, y'all stay safe out there.
Cocktails, Code, and Conversation is brought to you by the On the Corner Media Group. Check us out at onthecorner.us for more great content.